election.
Yeah, but I remember that point. That question was also asked of me, gentlemen. If you, a political party, have an issue with INEC utilizing the services of, this transport association, what option have you proffered? But on the other hand, they actually proffered that, okay, perhaps, like both of you have said, we have come to the time when they also need to utilize other services, not just transport, not just public, perhaps Uber, perhaps car hire services and all that. And even in that case at hand, INEC was not even in court to even present. It was a one-sided, kind of a case. Only the party or the parties were in court. INEC, despite being served, wasn't there. My question now is, people would say that these transporters have been working, for so long. They may not have the look that we all desire in terms of how attractive they are, in terms of how attractive their vehicles are. What options do we have on ground?
I'm not sitting there arguing or reasoning that they should be left out. I'm one who believes that we should actually find a mechanism to make sure that they are veiled with opportunities, but through a channel that can be held legally responsible. No, through a channel that can be held legally responsible. Look, I was actually laughing when a particular party went to court and got an injunction against a particular agency in Lagos, against the leadership or the person that personifies the leadership of a particular agency in Lagos. I was laughing. You know why I was laughing? Anybody who wants to be honest should tell me in any state of Nigeria where the leadership of Transporters Association are not flirting with the government in power. Who owns the garages? The physical asset of the garages. Who owns it in most states of the federation? The government. And the leadership of this Transporters Association gain their relevance based on the control of those physical assets. So if you say in Lagos you don't want a particular person who is as seemingly incongruous his leadership of their agency may be in Lagos, are you telling me that in Adamawa, in Anambra, those who are in the leaderships of the Transporters Association are non-partisan? It's not possible. Hypocrisy of the highest order. Look, we must find a mechanism either through the logistical architecture or infrastructure of, say, armed services and the paramilitary services, reimburse them. After all, these people are not doing it for free. Reimburse them and let them look. The Nigerian police has a functional interface with these transporters. There is in every district of Nigeria, you have the district police officer, DPO. You also have the district transport officer in the Nigerian police, just as relevant as the DPO. Absolutely. And he knows the transportational architecture of his terrain. You know what? We will not leave them outside the net because we also want them to have the economic beneficence.
And they even provide value to the system.
But they must function with a mechanism that my colleague Adelia alluded to, that can be easily sued. But INEC was even telling us, I was laughing when I was reading it, INEC was telling us that they signed contracts with the individual owners, but were expecting the canopy body of transporters in the state to be their enforcers. Comedians in country. We are blessed with comedians. A lot of comedians in officialdom and outside officialdom. So
All right. Well, the issue of logistics is one of the many that arose on Saturday all over the country. And even still talking about the issue of logistics, it didn't just affect the voting process in the country as voting commenced at varying times. It also affected counting of votes at some polling units.
Before counting of votes, my sister.
Right.
Even INEC's ballot papers. Some logos were left out.
Absolutely. We'll get to all of that. We will definitely, try to address all these issues. But I want you to respond to, this issue that I'm going to bring up now, as we see in this report, where the issue of logistics not only affected the stats, the slated time of voting, but counting of votes at some polling units where electoral officers lacked power supply to record the results. And TVC News political correspondent, senior political correspondent Ayodele Ozugbaku witnessed such situation in Yola South local government area of Adamawa State.
Bako Primary School here in Yola. But what is happening here is most bizarre. I've never seen, since I've been covering the election, I've never seen anything close to this. And at the end of the day, what is happening here, there's no power supply here. So people are coming here with from EC8A, they are writing it manually. And no power supply anywhere here. The only light you can see now is just the light on my camera light. So location of this place that you have INEC electoral officers that are meant to be supervising all around, they don't have power supply to work with. So I'll give you a kind of idea of how it's happening here. And we wonder why the Independent National Electoral Commission did not deem it fit to at least make provision for alternative power supply. So power is what they want here to be able to process the entire results. So I don't know how long they will continue to do this manually. People are just in here with the result sheets, they're waiting and they're calculating and tabulating it manually. I'm just trying to make my way down here and I'm trying to get my cameraman into this place, and when you get into this place, you will understand better what is happening. The only light you can see here is the light from my own camera, and the collation is going on right here. What collating unit? What's the name of this local government?
Yola South.
Yola South.
Local government.
Please look at comment.
Bako Ward.
Okay, Yola South local government. Bako Ward.
Bako Ward.
Bako Ward.
I have 23 polling units.
So you have 23 polling units
Yeah,
here.
yes.
But how are you able to work under this atmosphere?
Well, they are trying to collect all the results. I already count the results. So they are put the result under the result sheet now. They collected every collecting the bill here into the collection center.
How transparent is this process? How can you be working under darkness?
What?
How transparent is this process? You are working without lights.
Well, yeah, they have tried. They are using their phone lights. You see how they are using their phone lights? They are using it. Yes. This is not the first time they are doing it like this.
This is not the first time.
Yeah, this is not the first time. They are doing it for a long time. Many political times, if there is no light, they are using their phone light.
And how transparent will this process be? My own is this transparency here.
Yeah. This is how our own politics in Adamawa is. Some not all. Not all is local. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Yari, that's the situation we have here.
TVC News, Ayodele Ozugbaku there, bringing us reports from a collation center in Yola South local government area of Adamawa State, where he says from the officer a number of polling units, more than 10 polling units are situated within that spot. What do you make of this happenings? Here we are talking about logistics challenges, and this is another outline, another implication of just how bad the situation is.
Yeah, those days when we study management, they say when you fail to plan, you definitely plan towards failure. You ask yourself, that is a central area where you're supposed to collate results after each polling unit have submitted to the ward and to the local government. And from what Ayo said there, we have over 23 polling booths
units
under that particular area. And it's not something you need to notify anyone. You know that that particular polling unit would definitely possibly start their work around 4 or 5 or even 6. So definitely you are supposed to provide power. But if you ask INEC, provision would definitely be made. But execution might be the issue. Implementation might be the issue. And because we've been saying this, that when we have exercises like this, individuals who are culpable of actually derail some of these things are not punished. You heard the guy said, this is not the first time. Assuming he's saying that this is an unusual thing that we are facing currently, you said, okay, maybe they got it wrong, they changed ends or anything. He said, that is how we've been doing it. And thank God for the torchlight on their phone.
And the superior light from the camera that also gave some form of illumination.
No, Ayo will definitely move out of the place. They've been doing the exercise before Ayo arrived. And even while he was moving out, the exercise continued. So you can imagine the kind of result you get from this state. We keep saying it that we can blame INEC. Individuals that are commissioned to do certain things, how much are we monitoring them to make sure those things are done? How do we follow up things? If you are saying a central area where you expect people from different polling booths to come in and submit, you don't expect them to come in the afternoon, because definitely you're saying accreditation closes by 2:30. You expect voting to run into 4:30, 5, 6 for them to count in their own area and now submit to the local government. What preparedness do you have at the local government? Nothing than having this kind of darkness. So these are some of the things that we say, can we have a walkthrough? We've said it, but if you ask INEC, they will tell you there are checklists. For those of us in the financial world, any assignment you need to carry out, there's a checklist where you tick and tick. But I can tell you that under the platform of INEC, these things are ticked, but what we always lack is monitoring. You give people assignment, you give them, you mobilize them, and you feel that they will do it the way you want. These are areas that you start seeing litigation. People will come up and say, no, at this particular local government, in fact, they intentionally shut down the light so that they can perpetrate their evil, even when the people there do not have such plans. So I feel when we have this kind of, can we have a run-through? Can we have independent people monitoring activities and reporting? You see, the level at which technology has taken us now, nothing can be hidden. We should have portals where people can report activities online, real time, as it's happening, so that it can guide. We are not saying that that will make or mar this particular election, but that can guide in preparation. Most of the time, some of these reports are given to INEC. I'm sure we faced this during 2019 election. But what lesson did we draw from it? You discover that very few, they will just relegate it, don't worry. And people know that once the election result is announced, all things goes. And that's why the same person who perpetrated this act, because I don't know why you will say a local government where those returning officers will retire to later in the evening, there is no provision of electricity. If there is no power supply from the national grid, there should be alternative power supply that you definitely provide. We've seen instances that several areas yesterday, it is the citizen in that area that were providing power supply for them to finish counting. Brought in transformer quickly. When they saw it was around 5 and they saw that this thing will run into late night, they started calling electrician. Can you help us fix this bulb? And let's get generator to power it so that we have those transparency. Why is INEC not preparing themselves to say, okay, if this comes to bear, this is our fallout plan. We don't have plan B in anything we are doing. We just go straight. Even when the initial plans that we have had failed, nobody scrutinized anything. You go scot-free, and the same set of people will be engaged. So when you do this time around, and you circumvent the system, and you are not punished, and you are invited again to come next year, don't you think that you'd have built more flesh to say, nothing will happen. Let's go ahead and do it, and we'll give the result the way it is. But I think we should start, asking questions the more. And for I would say the Gen Z, this is an atmosphere where we should have a reporting portal. Let me give it to INEC. At least there seems to be an improvement for our voters to trace their polling booths. Now they developed an app where you can put in your details. You can even have this mobile direction to where your polling booth is. To me, it's a development, at least plugging in into, so people are not finding it difficult to locate their polling booth.
Right. I will take you up. I will take you up on that, because that issue is also, very relatable for a number of Nigerians who tried to participate in Saturday's process. But, still on the issue of that example we saw in Adamawa State, the officer appeared to normalize the situation, and saying they have options of a phone, of a phone to use. But is it a matter of, we've started the process, we cannot suspend it to the next day? This crucial issue of collating results, which usually arises in courts when people want to question the integrity of an election, couldn't it have been suspended? Or is it a matter of, we've started, we must finish? And INEC may or may not have made provisions for alternative power supply.
I really believe that many of us who are educated and who live in urban areas in Nigeria are totally disconnected from the reality of this country. Many of us. Totally disconnected from the reality of this country. Move eastward Lagos in the direction of, would you know that at a point, Ekpe was not on the national grid for more than 1 year, one calendar
close
year.
To 2 years.
Ekpe, in Lagos. Berigbe and Co, suburbs of Ikorodu, and going in the direction of Shagamu. Sometimes power supply is a luxury in those places. And we are analyzing Nigeria's general elections, and we are sounding as though we are analyzing the American or British general elections, power. The guy was not normalizing it. The guy was looking at the stranger in their midst, Ayo. From asking that question, the guy knew Ayo was there, and he was saying, that's how
we do it.
And there was nothing INEC could do. INEC is not the government that has failed Nigeria. All the administrations since independence that has failed Nigeria. INEC would have to work contextually with the reality that the ecosystem presents it. And one of the practical realities is that in places like that, is indeed, it would have been strange to that gentleman to see power. That's a fact. Look, I was making fun, and the unfolding results are already validating my point. I was making fun of those. But
from the name of the local government in Adamawa State, Yola South, one would expect that, okay, it may not be like Lagos, or for example, but it is an urban center. So why then? It's bad enough that rural areas should be left out, so to speak. But Yola South, this is Yola South we're talking about, an urban area.
Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. In the greater Lagos area, let's speak to precincts. Let's speak to precincts of the greater Lagos area. Remove Magodo, remove Ikoyi, remove VI, the places where the discos, where they charge premium. Because if you load 10,000 naira, normally in some parts of Lagos, in most parts of Lagos, it will give you around 300 units. In those places, when they load 10,000 naira, they get 150 units. Remove those places that the discos strive to give consistent power to, because they are charging premium. Many parts of Lagos, get average of 3 to 4 hours of power a day. Some don't get at all. And I'm talking inner city Lagos, not suburbia. So you are telling me about Yola? Yola, because somebody says he has industries there and they're producing pure water and a university? My sister, the reality of our circumstance is that that is the typical Nigeria. It's only people like you and I and my brother here who are living in relative utopia. Relative utopia. Because that's the classical Nigeria. And until we revolutionize the generation delivery of power, we will typically get this, because as it is, nobody wants to invest in a particular sector of the economy that does not properly recompense the investor. Power supply in Nigeria is more of a social welfare service. You're not paying industry rate. Many people will be mad at me for saying that. But you know what? If we want to keep living in delusion, let's keep living in delusion. Nigeria is the only place on the face of the earth where an average educated person hears words like commercialization, privatization, and they go, like the world is coming to an end. If you don't incentivize creativity and value innovation, you will live in darkness. Those are the practical realities of our circumstance. Look at human being being literally improvised as
writing
As a table. At the table. But you also raised, a crucial point. Again, we saw issues of, INEC breaking down or decentralizing polling units. Yes, I had been seeing links. They had been sharing links. If you want to ascertain truly where your polling unit would be, where you get to vote, log on to that. But in reality, by the time many people got to the polling units, they realized apparently maybe they didn't get to see the link, or they didn't bother to open the link or something. That's for those who even got it. But many people appeared to have been disenfranchised yesterday. Not everyone had the time to say they wanted to go and search for where their polling units would. When you look at this, did it appear to you to be well thought out?
Yeah, it's a good innovation from INEC, but like we used to have, my big brother said, implementation is always a problem, and there's this communication gap among the populace and those governing us. Few of us saw that, first and foremost, the fear of clicking on any link these days is always there, because practically you click on the link and the next minute your account is wiped, you add in money. So even when people like us validate something and we share amongst our friends, several questions are being asked, because you don't want a situation you will start and the next minute you go to a particular area, they're asking of your NIN or BVN or even your phone number. I'm sure our phone numbers now is like more or less our bank account when you talk of some fintechs that are actually operating. So first and foremost, how much trust do people have in that particular link? Some of us share that and they say, it won't work. But for me, I tried it severally. That's one. Two, there was no proper guidance. At initial stage, we were hearing, use the VIN number. At the particular time, they say, use the code number. So you discover that the inconsistency because I knew the first time I got it, I used it, it took me to a different place, even though in my area. So I had to now revalidate by using the other code. So that one took me to my actual location where I voted yesterday. So it was thereafter, after I validated, I started disseminating the information to the people on my platform to say, okay, you can validate this via this. First and foremost, we must reduce the trust deficit. People don't believe in certain link that is even coming from the government or government agency, because they feel that it's not going to be competent. You are not going to have that reliability that is expected of such. And it's because of past failures. That's why most people will not believe in such thing. But what we are saying is that things are changing. How much are we keen into the changes that we are expecting? A lot of people, I'm sure Mr. Yola will not complain so much of cash crunch because before now, in his office, he's already electronic. Most things are in electronic manner. His staff are no longer, you know, those days we queue, they will give us envelope when we finish our salary. These days, that's not happening. Every corporate organization requires, even when they are engaging you as a cleaner, to have a bank account which they will transfer to. So you discover that most corporate organizations never bother themselves about this, except for few individuals like you and I that had to jump buses from here to the other place to make sure that we have little cash on us. But outside that, you discover that most elites goes through to the mall where they will not pay cash, but they will use their card.
Before
but how
now, right.
are you concentrating on the woman selling pepper on the road? And you see, to collaborate my idea of saying there is this trust deficit and gap, when most people migrated to the e-payment platform, the failure rate we've actually received. I can tell you from free and on national TV, I have a file where I've been keeping every decline, because you see a transaction being declined and you are being debited. And it's not being reversed. Not one, not two, not three. Because the infrastructure of the financial institution was overstretched. And now you want to preach to certain set of people that can we go electronically even in our election process? Definitely people will utter, because even the simple one that we are supposed to have to make life more seamless, we are all embracing e-technology. But the failure rate is really getting people discouraged. The other time, myself and Vero were here. You have a debit on your account. You approach the bank, if that is even if you have access to the banking premises, and you are told that you have to wait for 14 days. How do you manage such? So we should reduce the trust gap that we have currently in some of the things that we do, and life can be more meaningful. I don't see reason why within 48 hours, if there are failure, you cannot have reversal. If it's validated. Even when they complain to the office, you see customer care officer telling you. So when certain things that contribute to our lives, we are not getting value as expected, how do you expect people to believe in an electronic way of carrying out our election? And like he said, we can't continue to live in the... I believe why Mr. Yola is talking about this power sector. It's in the realm where people like us, you know, I major in that sector, and I've always been, people throw stones at me to say, you're a big boy, that's why you can feel that the cost of electricity is not high. But my boss has actually stayed outside this country, and we know what we pay for power. We know what we pay for power. If we must actually get value that is expected and attract the investors that needs to make this sector work, it's not what we are paying now. So, in fact, it's over-subsidized, if I must put it that way. And that's why you see so many discos. I'm sure you read it in the public domain of several discos that actually went down and was handed over to AMCOM for new investors to buy in. As we speak, how many investors are interested in it? Because the initial one were actually there to make, you know, business viable, but the circumstances surrounding it is not allowing it. So until we get serious, intentional, and have the political will to make things work, we may not be going far. All this idea of subsidizing and subsidizing what is not to be subsidizable. Let's get the economic work. When it's working, individual will do what is needful. If I know that I'm going to get electricity 24/7 and I have to pay for it, definitely I can plan myself. I can know one or two things that I need to do to make life meaningful, but now you cannot even guarantee when there will be supply. And like he said, there's no exception to this. You are saying Yola, part of Lagos. Let's do a poll of people reporting back the average hours that they get on daily basis. You'll be shocked. So we must be intentional about making certain things work. We've talked about transportation as an issue, security. Now we are talking about power. And many more that we'll face there. We have even said, can we have situation where I'm having so much concern, maybe because as an accountant, so much that we eat into our economy by shutting down the system on a full day. Do you know certain set of people live on daily income? When they opened the system yesterday, at 6 p.m., people were rushing out to market to make sure that they sell something possibly between 6 and 8 or 9 to make a daily living. Can we get system to work in such a way that Mr. Yola will be in the studio analyzing and is casting his votes? Because we have platform. Technology is the in-way things here now. In UK, you don't hear a shutdown of the economy for days. If this thing continues, we've heard from yesterday certain areas where election will be holding today. So such people in that area, you are putting restriction for them to even go and have their fundamental human right to serve their God.
All right.
So this we must put in place if we must allow things to work.
And, here we are talking about, the rise or the rising potential of technology. INEC too had been harping about, it utilizing, technology to ensure that the elections are credible, they are free and fair. But looking at the much ground that we apparently still have to cover, and this issue of why can't we vote by mail? Why can't people in the diaspora vote? And even the issue of polling units being broken down, decentralized, and Nigerians not being able to access their polling units before voting day. What do you make of this argument?
Look, you have conflated so many important issues in that question. But let's be methodical the way we go about them. INEC has always wanted to go full blast on technology. It's been the political class that's been holding INEC back. Some of us have been agitating for upwards of about 20 years for the political class to accommodate the use of technology more. Michael Jackson, FC Hammer, Bobby Moore used to vote in Nigeria. It was not until they introduced permanent voters card and card readers that the phenomenon we had in 2003 when candidate Olusegun Obasanjo got more votes in Ogun State than the total number of registered voters in Ogun State. The Supreme Court had to separate that because what they said, it was an anomaly, an incongruity, but that the total votes cast in Ogun State, if nullified, was not going to vitiate this thing. But ever since PVC was introduced after that aberrative, scandalous scenario, from the moment the PVC and card readers were introduced, no single polling unit in the whole of Nigeria gives you 100% voters turnout anymore. Technology works. Look, one of the arguments some of us used, at least, to let the political class know that they were shortchanging not only themselves, but shortchanging the whole of Nigeria for not allowing technology to be built well into our electoral system, was we kept telling them the most credible database today in Nigeria is the BVN. The BVN is the most credible database. You know what? I can afford to say with a degree of conceit that no Nigerian has 2 BVN numbers. Your biometric information reconciles automatically itself on the central database kept by the Central Bank of Nigeria, accessible by all registered financial services institutions, especially deposit money banks. The most credible. Nigerian passport has started getting some modicum of respect in the last 10 years because we've gone digital with it. And I'm talking now. Nigeria's driver's license used to be, travel with international driver's license, just to go and do whatever you wanted to do.
You could have it on the spot.
But you know what? The driver's license is gaining some modicum of respect too now because there's a central database. Yeah. And like he said, once there's a central database, you can interact with your information in that database, respecting for GPRS, data protection rules. But the political class, because even where Ayo was in Yola, you know why I was saying when that footage was being run, I was saying that Ayo should forget his elitism. Within the context of the technology that we have applicable now, I can trust the integrity of the votes registered there. You know why? Because verification in all the 23 polling units that collation center covered, verification was done inevitably through a technological source. If it was during the days when you could synchronize the use of technology with manual, they say, because a card reader failed. They will say card reader failed. They will then form, what was the name of the form? But you know what? In this instance, if you were not verified by BVAS, you were not going to vote.
So you wouldn't question the integrity?
I wouldn't, because
of
that is another added advantage of technology. Yeah. But do we need to go in the direction of my brother, of what my brother submitted? Yes, we need to be faster on this issue of technology. I would have voted yesterday if the anachronism of having to compel me to hold a plastic card. If I need to vote in England up till tomorrow, I just walk to the nearest polling booth to where I'm registered as an elector. I need not hold any paraphernalia. I get there, I mention my name. Somebody will look. Once my name is out, they don't. Even their own operation is very, 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 very manual. Look at my name. Once he or she sees my name, gives me a set of papers. But in the case of Nigeria, I would have to approach a polling unit with a plastic card. That card, I was robbed of it. I couldn't do it because I wouldn't want myself to be humiliated or this thing. But yet, I could on my phone transfer money. Why can I not cast my vote on my phone? I know my name is on the INEC roll. You know why? Yeah. Because I had once interacted electronically with the roll, and it gave me every information about. So we need to be going further in the direction of technology, even with all our challenges. The good thing about technology now is that because as a nation, governments and successive administrations have failed us, the good thing about technology is that the global ecosystem of technology is even allowing us the privilege of leapfrogging. What do I mean by that? Do you know that in so much as all the telcos in Nigeria are not fully covering the whole of Nigeria, you see some areas that this particular telco will not be working well. You see some areas where this particular telco will be working very well. But as I'm talking to you today, I can afford to tell you that I know of 4 global internet connectivity providers that covers every nanometer of Nigeria. Starlink being one. Elon Musk. I may not like the guy personally because of some of his funding predispositions, but you know what? His private satellite architecture is literally being used to fight a war now against one of the major powers of the world, and that major power of the world is being militarily rubbished. Starlink has put into space in the last 5 years more satellites than all the countries of the world, including America, a private company. And it covers every nano link. It's just arrived to Nigeria. Some of these companies want side kete. Because you know what? If I am in Malufashi or if I am the nitty-gritty of Nigeria, all I just need to have is to be on a network like that. I know Starlink does it. I know Facebook has one. They are afraid of the powers that are in Nigeria. They would have allowed us to be using some of these things for free. Google has a global architecture like that. So Nigerian state, any serious-minded government can actually leverage this infrastructure and get us. But the reality as we speak is that the use of technology has been limited by the political class, because if you remember, and I always say this, I always say this, Wike and Idom Emmanuel wouldn't have been governors because they lost at the first election petitions tribunal. They lost at the Court of Appeal. It was when they got to the Supreme Court that the Supreme Court said, yes, the reasoning that made them lose at the elections petition tribunal and the Court of Appeal, the reasonings were valid given INEC's regulations that countenance the use of technology, but that the use of technology was not countenanced in the Electoral Act. That's why Wike, the outgoing governor of Rivers, and Idom Emmanuel, the outgoing governor of, that's why they are governor, they ended up being governors. Technology worked against their elections. But at least we have forced them with the Electoral Act 2022 to a point where they have accepted technology. But we will keep pushing them. Technology works.
All right. So you both are on all fours about the use of technology, and I'm sure that you know many people also would agree and urge that the government does more in this regard. But what did you make of the varying outlooks of turnout, even here in Lagos, coming to the office? Of course, the streets were deserted, largely. But at the polling centers, yes, you said
there was a lockdown. The city had to be.
Yes,
there was a covidization of society.
A semblance of there was a lockdown. Come to think of it, but. How was it, or what do you think? Were you impressed? We had, more than 87 million, Nigerians who had collected their PVCs, but some reports from polling units didn't seem to show that large turnout that people expected. Yeah,
well, like you said, I think the introduction of technology is giving us some same light. When I saw the my polling booth has electorate of over around 1,608, and as of yesterday, I don't think we have up to 600. We are the remaining 1,000. So, and that's why people like us will continue to say, people are still apprehended. They have that fear that if I go out, anything can happen. People want their privacy. So if we can successfully implement BVA, there is nothing we cannot do. It's the political will. And I can tell you for free, the advantage of this BVA now is assisting. I'm sure you heard about the collection of the revenue agency, the FIRS, in terms of taxes. What aided that? BVN. So as an individual, Bola Oba, you have about, before now, you can hide some funds somewhere and keep the other somewhere with another account. But now, there are two things. It's either you forfeit that funds or you bring it to the net, into your account. And what are we using? BVN. So the Revenue Authority have access to your BVN. All they need to put is put that BVN, and the 10 account will show up in all different banks with the account balances, and they can monitor the transactions that is being carried out and that place, and they can ask questions. Sir, this revenue came in. This revenue came in. Can you explain to us? That is the power of technology. If we have not introduced that into the financial system, it is the financial institution that we introduce that to, but it's assisting us in revenue generation.
Revenue collection.
So, if we go the route of technology, life will be more, remember those days when we had to borrow video at video centers, and you take home, you go and pay, bring 2-3 days. Technology, you can now watch movie,
video streaming,
online real time. Most of the time, your guest here will be held up in traffic. you stray.
It has options.
And tell them, can you please connect? Oh, something is happening somewhere. I'm get stuck. They are robbing. Are you safe where you are? And give us live updates. If we have not invested in technology, you have all your team scattered all over the country. What are they using? If it is the traditional way of reporting,
I would have had to return back to Lagos.
to Lagos before it gives that report.
The footage.
But technology has improved that, and it's communicating to us all the way from Yola what is happening live and direct. So that's why we keep saying that the elites, the political class, irrespective, you see, you only lose if you are not doing that which you have promised to the citizens. Otherwise, if you are doing the proper things expected of you, promised to the citizen, I can tell you that technology will continue to aid your re-election if you seek that re-election. Then we can have this idea of saying, whether political party or not, independent candidates cannot come out, because at that point in time, you know you are not attached to any political party, but your credibility will speak for you. There are people that even in their locality, individual want to, like, oh, we know this man when he was chairman of this place, he has moved to maybe the CDC, we can see his commitment. And these are the right people we want to lead. And if we know if it's there, it will perform. But such people, do they have the leeway to actually be part of it? You have to belong to a political party. And if you introduce technology, individual people can have that confidence. I know certain people will be saying, hackers are there. See, everything that has its own advantage has a disadvantage. But here, the advantage for technology outweighs the disadvantage. If you put the necessary measures that you're supposed to put. I've not for once heard that BVN is being hacked. And you can hear my brother telling you that these BVAS, of which I too, with what I saw yesterday, there are certain old people that, you know, the fingerprint was not working. You know, and they created the two options. Even if we look alike, system has a way.
Oh, the iris is a
biometric information. So even if we look alike as twins, there are differences when the system is capturing it, which is not known to you.
And that was why the system, you know, ruled out either your
is
facial
either your
image
face or facial. That's why it's called
bimodal biometric.
So any other, if you fail any of
or
the
that
two,
that means you are not the
vote.
one that is there.
You cannot vote.
So those are the things that we are saying that at least it will bring transparency. So I saw so many elderly people, maybe because of their age, the thumb printing was not actually working. Some of us, even outside, we faced it. They will ask you to put your thumb. They will be saying clean and clean. You clean everything, it's not responding. So once they tried once and it's not working, your face cannot feel you. So, and you see, within few seconds, that thing will synchronize, and the officer will just tick and say, go and vote. So if we improve from BVAS this session to where we can integrate into individuals, casting the vote at the comfort of their home, I'm telling you, we had 93, like 93 million people that collected PVC. People like...
86 collected,
right,
93 registered.
93 registered, 86 collected. And part of that 86 is Bola Oba, who didn't exercise his duty because he was robbed and he still has his detail. I'm sure if you put in your code, and you know the way it works, several people saved some of these sensitive documents in the cloud. When I got my BVN, I scanned it and it's hosted in the cloud. So even if I misplace the physical card, I can recall that and use that to check my information online.
Ironically, I have my,
You have that
in the cloud.
In the cloud. Information.
I have it in the cloud.
But because you must present it.
Any document I get.
In the card.
Yeah, any document I get, I scan and put in the cloud. Reason is that I may need that document anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. And the cloud is a functional library that goes everywhere with me. But like he said, because I would have to present that plastic this thing.
Right.
You see how, and I'm also one who believes that subsequent to the introduction of permanent voter card and the card readers, we have a sizable number of names on our electoral roll that are not quite functional names. I'm sorry to say it. Reason is that the political class perfected the art of front-loading the electoral roll in the areas, in the constituencies where they would have reason to want to prove that. You will remember that at some point, INEC's registration machines were found in some major politicians' homesteads. Because during registration, they will bring in those people, and both hawkers on the road, beggars on the road will be ushered in just to have their basic information. I am one who believes that electoral road is still loaded. The only thing that is saving us from having the optimal use of it is because the people who were used to fill in the loading are not available. And that is why our turnout, relative to some other liberal democracies, our turnout is usually very low. He was talking about his polling unit yesterday, that ordinarily in that polling unit, they would have about, say, 1,500 or 1,600, and that the total number of those who turned up were not up to 600. Anyway, my understanding of INEC, I think one polling unit should not have more than 750. But
under the decentralization, yes.
Yeah, under the decentralization, should not be more than 750, but usually you have 2 or 3 polling units in a polling station.
One area.
Yeah.
In a polling station.
I think it's a comprehensive list that was actually put there. Stations. We have 2 other extensions, but the names that were pasted was reading 1,608. But we have 2 other. We used to be a central one, but 2 other one inside the estate that were not there before.
But even in your own point, but we had a similar, somebody raised a similar points to that which you raised, that even with this decentralization mode now, there were still names that had more than 600, per unit, despite the stance.
One thing too is that when INEC seeks for engagement, a politician yesterday, he must have lost his unit, was saying, we are seeing people just turning up to come and vote. We don't know them in this area. There was a time, I was telling the person, there was a time that INEC bait Nigerians, bait us. We are publishing the electoral roll, the voters register. Please look through
for your name.
The names, not only your name, the names of people in your neighborhood. Right. If you have reasons to believe that some of those names don't belong to your hood, contact INEC. When they said people should do that, that one sat comfortably in his house, thinking he was one political macho. They came now, they gave him a shellacking. We're walloping, what bad day, he's complaining. Democracy is not only internal vigilance, but internal engagement. If you don't know to engage with the machinery of democracy, one way or the other, it will find a way of leaving you behind.
I'm also to collaborate with what Yola Oba said. Let's take the urban city. You leave your house 6 a.m., come back 8 p.m. How do you want to know everyone in your locality? You only know those guys that play to the gallery, that comes to you. Most people are not, in fact, most people don't know their neighbors. And they'll be right there for months.
Absolutely.
So you cannot
how well,
But
how well
the thing that this BVAS or electronic way of doing these things, even the registration has done, is that, INEC came up to say that they filter out several duplications. Because you see somebody, Bola Oba Bola, the same person reversing the name.
And the biometric information
will capture you that is the same person.
So it's the biometric information that has even helped INEC at the level of INEC.
Right.
But having said that, could I, as a politician, during the time of voter registration, could I have gone to a particular area and mobilized boys? Anybody say, well, Bram, register me. And they registered and they went.
And on the day of
But
election, they are nowhere to...
But Professor Yakubu, anyway, before the election, of course, before, the cards were printed, they had, pruned the register, so to speak, find out that there were
inevitable because of double registration.
Absolutely. And there we had them to identify all these anomalies that people have
give
pointed
credit
out.
to technology. If it is a traditional way of doing it, how do I... See, people were saying at the some certain polling area that are underage. I'm sure if somebody look at me, can you match my age? You can always say, is a small boy of 23 years old or 25 years old. People can look at you facially and say, Kemi cannot be more than 15, 18 years old. You cannot judge that. But we have been advocating until we have a central-based database as we are having now, where we can integrate date of birth. Integrating it with, your BVN now, if you give us different dates, when you are having your NIN, we have something to synchronize. I say it's working. Can we have, it's what some of us have been preaching, a central database where everybody will plug in. And we will start introducing it right from birth. When you come in, this issue of issuing certificates, when you give birth to a child and the parents go with this and start filing it, you can have an e-certificate. Most people, when we go for conferences now, they don't give you hard certificate. It's bringing a greener environment. They give you a soft copy. They ask you to log in, and you log in with your details.
You have a QR. You have a unique QR.
It goes in
registered participation.
And you download.
Which you can share. Which you can
just
share
your phone.
It's on your phone.
You just swipe your phone to the turnstile, and the turnstile, because the turnstile recognizes, has a mini server that recognizes the number of
people that have registered
to pass through.
So we will continue to preach it.
There are countries of the world now that, as citizens, when you get to your point of entry, you don't even have to bring out your passport anymore. There's no woman being checking. You just swipe your passport. And
there you have it. All right. Let's go back to the briefings by Professor Yakubu. Yesterday he had two, and another one is billed for 12 noon today. But the takeaways, many takeaways from the briefings of yesterday had to do with or included attacks on or delays, reasons behind the delays in the delay in election, the start of election in areas across the country. He talked about attacks on the BVAS machines now, that this time around is no more just,
ballot
stuffing and people looting or carrying away ballot boxes. But even the BVAS, a number of them were recovered, but we still have, some still in the hands of the hoodlums.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity for me to tell those who may be behind snatching BVAS machine that is an exercise in futility.
Yeah.
Total exercise in futility. If you snatch this phone from Bola Oba today, every information in this phone is in the cloud. If I buy another handset and I still remember my password, a new phone.
Within 10 minutes.
So anybody listening to me who is behind orchestrating, perpetrating or coordinating the snatching of BVAS machine, because the BVAS machine is just a device that is replicating for a particular locality information on a central server. Information on a central server. So if anybody snatches the BVAS, snatch the BVAS machine, apart from the fact that INEC, according to the Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, apart from the fact that INEC has a support infrastructure logistically to immediately replace it. You know what? If you snatch all the BVAS in that neighborhood, INEC will postpone the election. Once they postpone the election, they will come and do that election again.
Yeah.
The information on the central server is still there.
Yes.
It's an exercise in futility. Anybody listening to us, watching us this morning, if you are into it, forget about it. Go and use that energy to convince the electors to vote for you rather than perpetrating an act of criminality that will ultimately boomerang against you.
Right.
You see,
right.
even to buttress.
Let me put you on
okay,
hold,
okay.
Shesokwa. They will definitely, come back to this and other issues. You're watching